What's up guys, C2113 here, and today I'm going to be giving you my full review of the Zero Breeze portable air conditioner. Alrighty guys, so here's the Zero Breeze, and I've had about 3 weeks to get a really good take on this thing. And recently, I don't know if you saw my videos on the Ford Nationals, but I took this thing with me to Carlisle, and out there on the Carlisle fairgrounds, oh my god, it was really hot. And in fact, it was also extremely humid. So having a real air conditioner really proved to be a savior out there. And so I really did get a chance to put this thing through its paces. So with that being said, let's get into the full review here, and I'm going to break it down into different sections. We're going to start with what I like. So what I like, it's a real portable air conditioner. Now, I know I stated this in my unboxing video, but that can't be understated here. This thing is a true vapor compression, compressor-based air conditioner. And as such, regardless of the humidity level, it will perform its job. Now, obviously, the hotter the temperature, the higher humidity, the less efficient it's going to be, and maybe the less cool the air will be coming out of it. But nonetheless, it will still cool. Whereas an evaporative cooler pretty much stops functioning past 60% humidity. And certainly at higher temperatures and high humidity, it just struggles to perform. The other thing I really like about it is it's compact and lightweight. I can pick this thing up with one hand, no problem. And considering it's an air conditioner with 1100 BTUs, it's very compact. I mean, they didn't waste any space in the design, and it's got a very attractive, easy to grip design. The handle is very nice, easy grip and strong, and it's not an unwieldy shape. It's a very nice elongated shape that makes it easy to transport and store. The other thing I really like about this is that it's very quiet. When I took the decibel readings on this thing, I got about 50 to 55 decibels, and that's very, very quiet. And that's, of course, right next to the exhaust fan, which is going to be the loudest point. If you stand back just a little ways, it basically disappears into the ambiance. I mean, you really can't hear it unless you're in a dead silent room. But then again, in that case, if you're in the middle of a dead silent room, why are you using an air conditioner that's going to exhaust air into the room? So again, it's super quiet. The other thing I want to mention is it's super easy to use interface. Right here on this panel, it's dead simple. There's no complicated, digital menus to go into and all of that. It's all here. Basically, what you see is what you get. And obviously, that could be some downsides, but we'll get into that later. For the most part, it is extremely easy to use. Power is your power button. You have your fan speed control here. You have your compressor switch. And pretty much everything else underneath here, besides this button, is to control the speaker. So if you don't need to use the speaker, or you don't want to, you don't even touch that. And then here you have your light button. One press to turn on the light, and press and hold to turn on the emergency flasher mode. Super simple. The other thing, of course, I like is that you have fan control. They could have just as easily made the fan control the same as the compressor switch, an on or off. But by making it have 3 different modes, it makes it super simple. It avoids the need for some complicated computer regulation system with a screen and some complicated menus, but it also still allows you the ability to change the fan speed. The other thing, of course, I like is that it has charging ports located on both sides. This is extremely useful, and although some might find it annoying that everything has to be connected to our phones, in this particular instance, I think especially with the use of a battery, it does help a lot. Or even as we did, running this off of a generator most of the time, it basically removes the need for us to bring a separate phone charger, because obviously we've got 2 powerful USB charging ports right there. The other thing, of course, that I really like about the Zero Breeze is that it has a light. And not just any light. The color temperature of this LED light is actually much closer to neutral white, which is much easier on the eyes. And I definitely like it more than a harsh, cooler white LED for sure. Not to mention, the light has an emergency mode. So you press and hold the button, and you've got a flashing red strobe. So again, I really do like that. Another thing that's great too, again, is that the Zero Breeze comes with an exhaust hose. And this exhaust hose gets quite long, and it stretches out quite far. And it's great because, again, if this air conditioner didn't have an exhaust hose, then pretty much you'd only be limited to outdoor use or spot cooling use, because otherwise the hot air coming from the condensers would be exhausted into the same space that you'd be trying to cool. But having an exhaust hose means that I can extend this end outside and exhaust the air. In particular, this is extremely useful in a situation that you might be trying to cool a tent or some small enclosed space. The other thing I really like about the Zero Breeze is the long battery life. Now, I can tell you, I've tested it, and the claimed battery life on the battery is about 5 hours of runtime with the fan set on medium. And I can tell you for sure that I've used it on medium and even high intermittently, and I was able to get just over 5 hours. So indeed, that's a very long runtime considering you're running off of a single battery. Again, I really do like that. The other thing about the battery is that it only takes about 3.5 to at most 4 hours to charge if it's completely dead. All things considered, for a battery this large, that's pretty quick in terms of charging time. So I do like that as well. And finally, I just want to mention just the solid build quality of the Zero Breeze. I mean, considering this is a first run production product off of Kickstarter, this is a very, very well built piece of technology right here. Everything from the fit and finish to the overall tightness of everything and how it fits together, and just the quality materials. I mean, even just looking at these rubber feet on the bottom of the Zero Breeze here, they're very soft, and yet they're not at all susceptible to tearing. I would probably say these are some sort of nice urethane material. And again, also you can see the construction is done with all screws and not just glue or plastic popping tabs. Everything fits together very nice and seems pretty well thought out. And so I do think that the build quality is very nice. But now, on to what I don't particularly like. The first thing that I really don't like is the fact that the battery pack has no method of attachment to the Zero Breeze itself. So if I place the battery on the ground, I place the Zero Breeze on top, and I can use it. It'll power on once I turn the battery pack on. But if I go then to, let's say, move the Zero Breeze, I just want to, let's say it's on one table, right, outside my tent or whatever, and then I want to pick it up and bring it in the tent. I pick it up, the battery doesn't come with it, and it shuts off. Again, it seems like it's such a issue. But when you really actually try to use the Zero Breeze with the battery, you come to realize that it's extremely irritating. When you can't pick up the unit and the battery as one, it just seems like a huge oversight. I mean, they could have put some strong, obviously you wouldn't want to do something weak that would break, and this is a very heavy battery, which might be the reason why they didn't, on the first run, build something like that. But it would appear that they could have built some mechanism where maybe the battery slid on into position through a track system that wouldn't be as likely to break as, let's say, clips. But the fact that there's no way to effectively attach this, at least that's provided by Zero Breeze, in any permanent way to the air conditioner, is a little bit, let's just say, a little bit irritating. The other important thing that I want to mention is that the AC adapter that they provide overheats. Now, when I was out at the Ford Nationals, my family and I were underneath a canopy tent. So we were shielded from the sun, no direct sunlight, right? And we made sure to keep this AC adapter out of direct sunlight in the shade so that it wouldn't overheat. And even doing that, we were running off of an inverter generator, so clean power, okay, with very, very, very minor, if any, harmonic distortion. So obviously very clean, pure sine wave power. That's what an inverter generator is for. That's how I could run my laptop, my phone, my iPad, all that stuff runs just fine. And despite that, it overheated. It was about 86 degrees outside, and this began to get really hot. And after a while, if we touched any settings on the Zero Breeze itself, it would shut off. And then when we tried to start it, it would turn on. But as soon as we tried to get the compressor to kick on, it would just loop, as this would basically brown out in providing power for the Zero Breeze. It would brown out, and the Zero Breeze compressor wouldn't be able to start. It would keep trying to start the compressor, and then it would shut off and then retry, and then shut off and then retry. And so finally, the only solution was to let this cool down. And while we're letting it cool down, I just hooked up the battery and we used that. But again, that's extremely frustrating because we brought a generator to use this amazing air conditioner. And again, when it worked, and when it was working off of the AC adapter, it worked great. And when we were using the battery, it worked great. It was just extremely frustrating that despite having a generator, which is basically, for all intents and purposes, at a car show event like that, it's like limitless power. You can run off of it a long, long time. It seemed kind of frustrating that we had to resort back to using the battery with limited runtime. Another thing that I want to cover is just the speaker. The Bluetooth speaker on here, I was never too keen on having it in there. I kind of felt like it was unnecessary, and maybe that's just a personal bias because I always carry around my own Bluetooth speaker, and I always just prefer standalone Bluetooth speakers to something that's incorporated into another product. But I have to say, it just doesn't sound very nice. And we'll go ahead and I'll get it paired up to my phone, give you a listen of some copyright-free music, but it just doesn't sound very good. And in addition, of course, the pairing process, now that my phone is recognized with this, and my phone is familiar with this Bluetooth speaker, it pairs up pretty much automatically. But when I first got this thing out of the box, following the instructions in the manual, I could not get it to pair with my phone. No matter what I did, it would not pair. And now, as you see, it does. So that's another thing that was extremely frustrating. The instructions on how to pair this speaker with your phone are extremely unclear. So let's go ahead and sample some music. So this is Late Night Snack by Gunnar Olsen. Now, I don't know if you can tell by that little sample I played you, but it really, really distorts pretty badly. And it seems like maybe the diaphragm of the speaker isn't mounted correctly and it's causing some internal vibrations, because it's not any panels that I can feel out here that are causing the vibration. But man, does it sound, it sounds tinny, and of course it's a mono speaker. But again, the worst, of course, is the vibrations. And maybe, that's something they can fix in future iterations, improve the build quality, get the mounting inside there a little better. But overall, I'd say it's a Bluetooth speaker of last resort. Not my favorite. And, for some, it could be a lifesaver. For some, it'd be nice to have a speaker. But I can't see how the speaker is all that much better than something that's going to be from your phone. Not to mention the distortion could cause issues. So, again, Bluetooth speaker, just not that great. Another thing that I want to talk about is the evaporator drain. Now, of course, a real air conditioner is going to have condensation form on the evaporator because of the reduction in temperature. And of course, that needs to be removed so that you don't get mold and mildew and that sort of thing developing on your evaporator. So underneath here, you'll see this is part of the drain track that comes from the evaporator, and then it leads to this little port right here. Now, I ran into a couple issues with this. Now, the first one was when I first got the unit. Even with the tube on, the provided drain tube, which is just some silicone tube, as you can see here, put on to that port, to that outlet, I still got dripping here. And then I realized that they had just failed to use enough RTV, rubber sealant, around there to seal it up. And it's very hard to see, but basically, my solution was pretty simple. I just took a toothpick, I just got some black RTV from the auto parts store. I had some in my drawer actually. And you just squeeze a little bit out and then just applied it in there, make sure it was totally dry, applied it in there, and then just left it overnight to dry. And after that, totally fixed. But again, just seems like a small QC issue there. Now the bigger issue, and it's not, again, a huge issue, is that as long as this thing is on level surface, while the unit is running, it will drain fine. It'll drain out the back just fine. However, when you shut it off, you just do have to be careful to make sure that you tilt the thing upside down completely and let the rest of the water drain out. Because I guess just the nature of the design, there's always a little bit of residual water left in the drain channel underneath. And you don't want that sitting in there, especially if you don't use the unit very much. And so you want to just make sure you drain that out. Not a huge issue, and certainly not a deal breaker, because I mean, it's really not that hard to do this right after you're done using it. But just something to make sure you think about. Another thing that I want to talk about has to do with the battery again. Now the battery, again, for all intents and purposes, is a very well functioning, high performing, high output battery that holds a good charge. However, one thing that I really can't stand is that the charging port cover just doesn't stay on very well. I mean, it's a little rubber port, and you know, considering the nature of how much power has to go into here and the expense of these battery packs, you know, I want to protect the port when it's running. And this cover, it just doesn't stay on very well. Even when you're putting it on, it just feels extremely loose, and it's barely there. And as soon as you move this thing around a little bit, it pops right off. So a small gripe for me there. I think just maybe manufacturing just a slightly smaller diameter on this cover inner lip, and it'll stay on there just fine, because of course you've got the threads on that connector, so it wouldn't be that difficult for the right size liner in there to just grab onto those threads. Now the last thing I want to mention has to do with the Zero Breeze itself. And again, this is more of a nitpick, not a big deal at all in the slightest. But the light here in the front doesn't have any brightness controls. So obviously it's an all on or all off type situation. Obviously you have your emergency mode, but again, the light itself is on or off. It would have been nice to see the similar three brightness settings as you see here with your fan speed, but again, it is not at all a critical issue. So now I just want to cover a few areas of improvement. First, we have to address the power adapter. The power adapter is at the core of the system. So without the power adapter, you really can't run the unit and you can't charge the batteries. Now, of course, I never ran into any issues charging the batteries and running the Zero Breeze for short periods of time. But it seems like even the slightest voltage deviation or temperature, a high temperature, would cause this thing to sort of brown out and stop working. And I noticed even when I was running it that basically when it got too hot, the green indicator LED here would pulse every time the compressor tried to kick on, showing that it was effectively shutting off. And again, for everything else, you could make that argument, but for an air conditioner, of course an air conditioner will be used in a hot environment. So it seems a little ridiculous to think that the AC adapter itself can't handle that type of heat. So that's something that I want to see improved for sure. The front louvers here on the front of the Zero Breeze, they are a little bit difficult past the 45-degree mark. So when you're starting from completely closed, they're easy to move, and up to 45 degrees, they're fine. But then after that, you'll see they don't really track well together, especially past that point. If you want to point them down at all, you'll see I'm moving the bottom louver, but because of the friction, the top three are not moving at all, and I have to kind of manually move them like that. And then if I want to close them again, if I were to force this quickly, I'd probably snap the connecting rod between the different pieces. And so I kind of have to move them all a little bit, and then they'll close. Again, not a major thing, but it's just another thing that I really think could be improved, and pretty simply. I think just some of those tolerances aren't quite right. Another point of improvement that I think needs to be addressed is the speaker. The speaker I was never a fan of personally, but that's because I don't see the need for it to be incorporated into something else. But if you're going to have the speaker in the system, just make it more usable. There's no reason to say that it's completely unusable now, but let's be real. I mean, most people's phones have a better quality speaker than this. And I'd love to see that if they're going to leave the speaker in here, just have it improved slightly. I mean, you don't even have to add a second speaker to make it stereo. All you really have to address is that horrible vibration resonance sound. Because if you address that, I guarantee you the quality goes up like 30%. And the last thing I want to address is of course the evap drain. So the drain in the back for condensation. If you could improve the internal angle just slightly, it wouldn't require such a steep and long drain in this position once after every use. So in conclusion, I want to restate how much I love this thing. I will continue to use this thing. I love being able to use it at the Ford Nationals. I have another car event coming up in July that I'm definitely taking this with me to. And every time I'm outside in the garage on my car and I can't keep the door closed, and so I've got to open it up, I just turn this thing on and it keeps me cool while I'm underneath the car working. I can't stress enough how much I like this product. That being said, no product is perfect, and I think with a few minor adjustments, this can be an even better product. Now, at its current price, I do think it is acceptable. However, I think it would be an even better value proposition if Zero Breeze were to address these issues. What can I say? It does what it says it will, and despite some minor design issues and fitment issues, it is very well built. I mean, considering the cheap nature of most consumer products today, it is extremely well built. The fit and finish is very nice, and I honestly still can't believe this came from a Kickstarter, because most of the time, let's be real, a lot of these projects say one thing and deliver another. So in conclusion, guys, I definitely still do recommend the Zero Breeze. I think you guys should check them out. Of course, I'll leave the links in the description. And if Zero Breeze, if you're watching this, I really, really want to see you guys succeed. And if you could just make those few improvements, you would turn an amazing product into an unbelievable one. Now, if you want to see more, you know what to do. Get subscribed. Like the video if you liked it. And if you have any questions or comments or anything I didn't cover in the video, please let me know or ask me in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys.